Hi, I'm Agent Ford. Do you think you can help me solve another true crime mystery? Nothing felt safer than sleeping in your parents' bed inside the comfort of your home when you were a kid. The word home instantly reminds us of the protection it has given us since childhood. That might be the case for most, but not for the family of today's case. That safety was stripped away from them too soon. Today, we will be looking over the bizarre case of the Westfield Stalker, which remains unsolved to this day. It was June 2014. Derek Brodus and his wife Maria Brodus had just bought the house they'd always dreamt of owning in Westfield, New Jersey. Maria grew up just a few blocks away from her new residence. Everything seemed perfect. The couple was doing some renovations before officially moving in with their 3 children. Derek had just got done painting the walls of the home when he decided to go outside and check for mail. There wasn't much in the mailbox except for a few bills and a white card-shaped envelope. Thick and clunky handwriting said, "The new owner" on its front. Derek thought that perhaps this was some sort of welcome letter from one of their new neighbors. Little did he know that this letter would forever change their lives. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. The letter began. Everything seemed innocent enough till this point, but as Derek kept reading, it took a turn for the worst. How did you end up here? The writer asked. Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? The letter went on. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. Why are you here? I will find out. If this is not creepy enough, wait until you hear what was written next. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. And now, you are too. Bradis family, welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard. And now, it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know, I will be watching. The letter concluded. Imagine working your fingers to the bone for years to finally manage to buy a $1 million house, but just as you finish all the legal proceedings and are forever tied to the place, you receive a disturbingly threatening letter in the mail. We can only imagine how upsetting for the Brodus family this could have been. It was well past 10 p.m. when Derek discovered the letter. He was alone and immediately decided to call the police. Not even the police could be of much help at that moment. They just assumed that it might have been some kind of prank. But there was also the possibility that this watcher could be one of Derek's new neighbors. The police then asked him to keep it a secret, as it couldn't have been anyone in that neighborhood. Now, Derek rushed back to his wife and children, who were still living back at their old home. He explained everything to his wife. They decided to contact the house's previous owners, John and Andrea Woods, since the mysterious sender had mentioned the previous owners in the letter. Andrea Woods replied the next morning, revealing that they had received a similar letter as well. But since the Woods had lived there for 23 years with no issues, they didn't think much about it and threw out the letter. The Brodus family was annoyed and terrified at the same time. The following weeks, Derek and Maria stayed alert and looked after their children, even going as far as canceling plans and trips. 2 weeks after receiving the first letter, Maria was over at 657 Boulevard to check some of the paint samples when she realized they had received another letter with the same thick writing, but with an even darker message inside of it. The house is crying from all of the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The letter went on. The house was full of life and young blood. Then it got old, and so did my father. But he kept watching until the day he died. And now, I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again. This time, the watcher even went on to describe details about their children. The second letter terrified them even more than the first one, since it proved to the Brodus family that whoever wrote it had been closely observing them the entire time. They knew their children's nicknames, which only the family knew, meaning the house was either bugged or the watcher was so close to the house that he could hear what was happening inside. The stalker was particularly focused on the daughter of the Brodus family. One day, she was painting, and this event was described in the letter. "Is she the artist of the family?" The writer said. Wow, that would creep me out if that ever happened to me. My daughter also happens to be an artist, so this definitely hits home. By looking at the other contents of the letter, the police suspected that this person might have lived in 657 Boulevard before, as the details about the rooms and floors mentioned were pretty accurate. At this point, Derek and Maria weren't even sure they still wanted to move into their dream home. To listen and see everything about the family, the watcher could have been someone living close to 657 Boulevard. Derek began suspecting his next-door neighbors, the Langfords, for a while, and it became apparent to him when one of his other neighbors mentioned the Langfords were quite odd. The Langford family lived there since the 1960s, and despite their children being well in their 60s, they still lived in the same house. Richard Langford, the patriarch of the family, had died 12 years earlier, leaving his wife Peggy Langford behind, who was in her 90s. Michael Langford was especially weird, but they were harmless. Derek was starting to believe he solved the case. The watcher had mentioned in one of his letters that he had recently been in charge of watching over the family. If the father of the family died recently, it would make sense that his son was now in custody. Besides, the Langford family was the only one living in the neighborhood since the 1960s. When Derek informed the police about his findings, he was quickly let down. The family had already been questioned by the investigators. They even ran a DNA test of Michael's sister, Abby, as the watcher was a woman. The Langford family was cleared from suspicion, but to Derek, the Langfords were still behind those letters, so he devised a plan. Since the writer claimed to have been watching over the house for decades, Derek thought they might come forward if 657 Boulevard were to be destroyed. Derek then sent a letter to the Langfords, informing them that they were going to be demolishing the house. However, he never received a response from the Langford family. Several weeks passed, and the Brodus family had yet to move into 657 Boulevard. They had sold their old home and were living with Maria's family. The children would ask Derek and Maria when they would be able to move into their new home, but they couldn't answer any of their questions. Around the same time, they received another letter from the stalker. 657 Boulevard is turning on me. It is coming after me. I don't understand why. What spell did you cast on it? The third letter began. 657 Boulevard needs young blood. It needs you. Come back. Let the young blood play again like I once did. Let the young blood sleep in 657 Boulevard. Stop chasing it and let it alone. The third letter had a different tone than the previous two. The watcher sounded pretty disappointed that the Brodus family hadn't moved in yet. The police investigation couldn't help the family, so Derek decided to hire other PIs, including former FBI agents. Everyone around the family could notice the impact the letters had on Derek and Maria's mental health. Derek started falling into depression, and Maria was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. 6 months after the first letter had arrived, Derek and Maria decided to sell 657 Boulevard and put an end to all their suffering. However, rumors had already spread around the New Jersey real estate scene that a possible stalker was involved, making it difficult for the Brodus family to sell the house. On June 2, 2015, the Brodus filed a legal complaint against the previous owners, John and Andrea Woods, arguing that the Woods family should have disclosed that they were receiving threatening letters from the watcher. Unfortunately, the case was dismissed as the Woods family had only received a single note and didn't think much of it. News and media started being interested in this case, and now the stalker of 657 Boulevard was pretty well known throughout New Jersey. In 2016, the Brodus family managed to finally lease the house to another family who was willing to live in that house. Everything was going well for them until they received a fourth letter. Violent winds and bitter cold, to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria. This fourth letter shook the Brodus as the so-called watcher seemed violent and was threatening their lives. They wanted to get rid of the house at all cost, even if it meant a substantial financial loss. In August of 2019, the Brodus family finally sold the house, losing $400,000. Many theories are circulating on the internet regarding this case. Some people claim that the letters were written by Derek and Maria Brodus to have a motive to sue the previous owners and get some money out of it. I don't think they were the ones behind the letters, though. Derek and Maria suffered psychologically throughout those years, and no parent would go as far as threatening their children's lives for some cash. We can't deny that there are parents who have killed their children for stupid reasons, but one thing that doesn't make sense to me is why Derek and Maria would renovate the house, spending over $100,000 if all they wanted was money from the woods. The Brodus family moved on, and to this day, nobody knows who the watcher is. The new owners of 657 Boulevard always wanted to remain anonymous, and we have no clue if they've been receiving similar letters as well. The only thing we are sure of is that this is one of the creepiest cases of stalker we have discussed so far. Do you think the watcher will write another letter to the family currently residing at 657 Boulevard? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your fellow investigators. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. With that being said, stay safe, and I'll see you guys at the next crime scene.